On this episode of Where's the Line, me and Joseph talk about the college football playoff, the transfer portal, and a controversy in my fantasy football league. This is episode 109. Let's get into it.
You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Orgy again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line. It is Tuesday, December 5th, episode number 109. My name is Britt Dillard. I'm joined here by my good buddy Joseph. How are you today?
I'm good, Britt. We are here. How are you?
I'm good. It's Christmas. It's
silly
Christmas
season, baby.
It is. A transfer portal opened up officially yesterday, I believe, on the 4th.
Yes.
And it's crazy.
It is wild.
It seems to be more than any other year. And I think
Yeah.
we said that last year, but it just seems so
crazy.
obvious this year.
Yeah. So the transfer portal was kind of controversial throughout college football. And actually, before we get into the show, speaking of controversy, my boy, Mr. Britt Dillard, has a topic to bring up to the people to see how y'all feel about this. And I know kind of it, but I don't know what it is. So, Britt, take the floor.
So, fantasy football. This is the first fantasy football team I've ever had. This is the first time I've ever played fantasy football.
First year player.
I love it. Okay. I'm all in.
It is fun.
I'm good. Okay.
Oh, your team's good.
Like, I was projected 10th after the draft, and I've been first all year until maybe 3 weeks ago, and now I'm sitting in second place.
Okay.
I'm 8-5. Okay, so how many you play fantasy? How many teams make the playoffs in your league?
I'm in 4 different leagues, so it just depends on which league we're looking at. Not to try to flex.
What?
Not that is a flex, anyways.
Okay, but what? Just run through how many teams are in each league.
So in one 10-team league, it's 6 teams. In one 10-team league, it's 8. I'm sorry, it's 6. It's 6. It's 6 in all 3 of them. I'm in 3 10 teams. It's 6 in all 3 of those. 6 teams make the playoffs. Okay. And in my 12-team league, I think 6 teams make the playoffs as well. So I think it's 6 in all of them. Okay,
I just wanted to set that foundation. So in our league, it's a 10-team league.
This matters. Is there money on the line? Is there money?
No, there's not.
Okay, because I judge things differently if there's money.
That does matter. Okay, so it's a 10-team league. 4 teams make the playoffs. Loser of the league. This is the only result-driven punishment. Whoever finishes last in the league has to do the Blazing Challenge. It's simple. It's that simple. Okay. So we've got a guy is 10-3. Me and another guy are 8-5, and then everybody else is 6-7, 5-8, and then one guy's 4-9 in last place. So it's been set at 4 teams all year. All year. Even last week, I was talking about it last week. I was like, because 3 of us have clinched the playoff. I'm like, whoever gets in this 4th spot, like anybody can get in this 4th spot, pretty much.
Yeah.
So today, I look on fantasy. I won last night because I have Jamar Chase and Evan Ingram, and they went off last night on Monday night.
They did. I got beat. Whack.
So I won that game by 1 point. I go and look at the playoff bracket, the projected playoff bracket, and there's 8 teams on it. So it has been changed from 4 to 8 within the last 8 days, probably. There's a fly on my face. And then, okay, I look, the commissioner of this league, a friend, an acquaintance.
He's a friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is in 6th place.
Okay.
So he had pretty much been mathematically eliminated from making a 4-team playoff. All of a sudden, we're at 8 teams.
Okay.
So me being one of the 3 that has clinched the playoffs, I raise hell.
Right.
And now I've been made look like a lunatic for losing my mind over this fantasy league.
Did other people not take your side? Did other people not take your side? Okay. Here's my thing.
People did take my side. People were on both sides.
Here's my thing. So in one of my fantasy leagues, most people are not in the playoffs this week, but in one of my fantasy leagues that I'm actually the commissioner of, our playoffs start this week. Start this upcoming week. And it's because I accidentally picked the wrong starting week for the playoff. Well, I've told everybody all year the playoffs start week 14. I wanted to change it back to week 15, 16, 17, but I can't. Everybody already knows. That's literally what I told my uncle yesterday, was I can't change it. I'd already talked to everybody and told everybody week 14, they expect to work week 14 to start the playoffs, and that's when they're going to start. Listen, when you're the commissioner of the league, you have to be unbiased, and you got to make everything fair, no matter what. You cannot be thinking about your team. You can't be doing no sketchy trades, nothing. If you're not the commissioner and you want to work something out with your friend, whatever, but as the commissioner of your fantasy football league, you got to be great. You got to hold yourself to a higher standard. Being the commissioner means something, okay? You got to be elite. That's bullcrap. If that's me and I'm in the top 3, I would 100% ride. Because, especially if there's money on the line. I ask that because I'm in 2 money leagues. So if there's money on the line, that means more. Like, I'm not letting you get away with anything sketchy in a money league. Matter of fact, 2 years ago, here's a quick backstory. 2 years ago, I was in a fantasy league. The commissioner and one of his friends made a trade. And it was like, it was the year Jonathan Taylor was going off. It was Jonathan Taylor and I think like some random receiver. Like just random, like decent. It might have been Christian Kirk. For some bozos. For some absolute bozos. That's who got traded. And I was so mad about it. And I didn't pay my money. I told them straight up they ain't getting my money. And they didn't. So Britt, you're getting screwed.
As soon as I notice, I text the group chat. I say, when did we change to 8 teams? And they were like, it's always been the commissioner. Can you hear me? My Siri's being...
I can't hear you. Yes, I'm sorry.
Activated.
I got some technical difficulties.
I can't get off of it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Could you hear me that whole time?
Yes, you were screaming.
Okay, thank you. So as soon as I see it, I text the group chat. I say, when did we move to 8? Or I said, did we move to 8? If we move to 8, I'm boycotting. And the commissioner messaged me. He said, it's been 8 the whole time. And I said, no, I have proof. This is a few days ago. We were talking about who's getting the 4th spot. And he was like, well, it defaulted to 4 because you guys rushed me into making the league, which is not true. And we had always decided on 8, so I changed it. And I was like, okay, so if you don't change it, here's what's going to happen. I basically laid it out. I said, I have Jamar Chase, I have A.J. Brown, I have Justin Herbert. I said, I'm trading all 3 of those to the number 1 team. And I'm just letting him run through everybody. And he says, well, no, the draft deadline, the trade deadline is already over. And I said, okay, well, then my other option, I'm going to go to the championship. I'm going to defeat everyone. And then I'm benching all my good players. I'm benching this. It's a joke. It's a joke. And now the two guys that are competing for last place are like, we're not doing the Blazing Challenge. So now not only is there nothing to play for, there's nothing to even root for.
Yeah.
And the regular season doesn't even matter because everybody's getting in the freaking playoff.
Oh, so everybody is still getting in the playoff?
8 teams.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'm just going to have to prove a point, I guess. But the more important real life playoff scenario has been laid out before us, a much more controversial topic. Joseph, Florida State. Some people think they got fleeced out of a playoff bid. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that you can look at this from a few different ways of I guess kind of either what you prefer or what you think is right or whatever. Also, Britt, can you see me right now? Out of curiosity, because I'm having technical difficulties. So it just depends on. I guess I'm just gonna keep my camera off. But anyways, point being, it depends on how you look at it. Ultimately, I'll start with this. Alabama being in at 4 to me is not a huge monstrosity. It's not a thing where I look and I say, hey, because of this is like the biggest bunch of bull crap of all time. But the other half of me says this is the biggest bunch of bull crap of all time. You had a Power 5 team who played LSU, an SEC team, and Florida, an SEC team. 2 SEC teams. Okay? They beat both of them by more than a score. And they didn't make the playoff. They did not make the playoff. Remind you, as Britt kills a fly, thank you, Britt, for that up-close view, that these schedules in college football are made 4, 5, 6, 7 years out. Florida State cannot decide in 2017 or 2018 that Clemson and Duke and those teams are going to suck, or that Duke's starting quarterback's going to be hurt and people are going to look at the win different. They can't help that. They don't know that in 2018 or 2019. So with that being said, I think there's a part of me that all I can think about is how they did everything they could. They were perfect on the year. They were perfect. And they did not even get a chance to play for perfection. And I think that is wrong. I do not think that it's anyone's job to tell you that you're going to win or lose except for your own. You have to go out there and you whoop the man in front of you or you get whooped. And that is not just a quarterback. That is 21 other players that go out there, and if you include special teams, some more. But that go out there defensively or offensively and say, we're just not going to let the other team beat us right here. We're going to play together. And Florida State's defense was good enough. Now, Florida State would have got beat in the playoff, and they probably would have got beat bad. Michigan would have, I think, throttled them. Texas would throttle them. But that's not even the point that I'm trying to make. It's just that I don't morally feel right saying I'm okay leaving Florida State out. But if I had a vote, I would have voted Florida State in at 4. But I wouldn't have been mad if Britt sitting across from me would have put Bama in. That's the best way I can say it.
Yeah. At first glance, as I was watching on my phone in church, I was upset about Alabama being put in. I was more upset that their fans got to be happy, including my beautiful fiance. But the more I sat and thought about it, they did the correct. It's the correct playoff. Now they're doing the right thing by moving to 12 teams because all these years, I think it's like 10 years of the playoff or whatever, 8 years, whatever it's been, they've had to contort and twist their rules to match the narrative that Alabama should be in like twice now, and other teams along the way. So moving to 12 will clean that up. But I mean, this is the first really nightmare scenario they've ran into where, hey, we're going to leave out an undefeated conference champion. And it does suck, but Jordan Travis going down is what killed them. I mean, it's just they were not going to be competitive. I mean, they barely beat a Louisville team who just lost to Kentucky a week before. I mean, they were a chip shot field goal that Clemson missed away from losing to them. And I mean, you can look at Alabama's close wins too and say the same thing. Auburn, Arkansas, they struggled with UAB, but people say USF. It's the four. Oh yeah, my bad. USF. People say it's the four. You put the four best teams in. That's not true. If it was the four best teams, Alabama would be in it, or Georgia would be in the playoff if it was the four best teams. But also, screw Georgia. It's awesome to see them not in. And this year, if you're not a conference champion, like there was no shot for whoever lost that SEC championship to get in. But I mean, if I put myself in Florida State's shoes, if that was Tennessee instead of Florida State, holy crap. I mean, how discouraging is that? And I mean, if you're trying to recruit to Florida State, it's like, I mean, you can go undefeated here and not even have a shot for the national championship. So it sucks. But I mean, if I could do the same thing for Alabama. I mean, you're a one-loss SEC champion. You lost to an out-of-conference opponent who's also in the playoff. Like, if they got left out and I was them, I'm like, we should have been in. So,
yeah,
I think
either
they got
way,
it right.
And that's another thing. That's another thing too, is that either way in this scenario, someone got screwed who deserved to be in, and it was honestly two people. If you ask me, Georgia's still the best team in the country. I think Georgia didn't play their best. Bama had a clear incomplete pass that got called a catch and did not even get reviewed. And I mean, the fact that New York didn't phone in on that is so bad. With all the times they call for reviews and you couldn't get that one reviewed is pathetic. New York, whoever was sitting in the booth that day needs to be looked at. That's bad. So yeah, honestly, screw New York on that one. Also, that game cost me money, so definitely screw New York because I had money on Georgia. But Georgia got screwed, Florida State got screwed, and if you would have left Bama out, I still feel like they would have gotten screwed, and Georgia obviously still gets screwed really in any scenario. But I mean, look, when you look at the playoff, I think you're going to have two great matchups. Britt, who do you like, man? Who do you think gets out on both sides?
I think Alabama probably wins it all this year,
Okay.
whether they play Texas or Washington. Now, for those of you that are upset about the playoff, if you'll stop clutching your pearls and actually look at the setup that they've laid out for us, it's going to be an awesome semifinal and national championship.
Yeah.
I think Michigan opened up as like 1.5, 2-point favorites. I mean, that game's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that game will be awesome. The lineup itself sets to be good. You have two quarterbacks with very similar stats, within 100 yards of each other. Within 100 yards of each other, within a couple touchdowns of each other. Same thing with interceptions. There are a couple interceptions from each other. Their stats are really similar when you look at them. Just to give you that, Jalen Milroe's yards, he threw for 2,718 yards. McCarthy threw for 2,630. McCarthy, 19 touchdowns. Jalen Milroe, 23. McCarthy with 4 picks. Milroe with 6. And then QBR, JJ McCarthy with a 90. Jalen Milroe with the 83.6. So you're looking at them. Their stats are right there together. But also run very different offenses. This game is just set up to be great. Michigan's defense is elite. Mike Sanders still in the secondary, leading that defense. He's a dog. I think that shows you for a great setup. And then on the other side of the ball, Michigan has a really bad matchup with Alabama's pass rush and their O-line being beat up. But they may not have to score that many because I don't know how many Alabama can score, or I don't know how many consistent drives they can put together down the field. So this could be a good game, but a pretty low-scoring game. I don't see it being super low-scoring, but I don't think it's going to be 40-40 by any means.
Yeah.
Matter of fact,
yeah.
I'd be shocked if either team scored 40 in that game.
Looking back at this is off topic. Go ahead.
No,
what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that looking at the games, I asked Britt for who would pick, so I'll go ahead and give who I'll pick. I've slept on Washington all year, or I was too high on Oregon, one of the two. I guess they'll have to prove me wrong one more time, though. I'll take Texas. Texas, I think they get out. And that Michigan, Alabama, man, I've been so high on Michigan all year. Zenter getting hurt was so big for Michigan, though. They already were having problems with the rush. You saw that against Penn State, where they had to run the ball consistently just because they couldn't block for JJ. And they out physical you. I don't know if they can out physical Bama. I really don't know if they can. Because Nick Saban's always been so good at getting the dudes ready to do that. And I mean, Kirby's smart as well. You just watched them. They were really more physical than Georgia. Oh, yeah. This game sucks. I do not want to bet on this game, even though I'm going to. But I can't leave my boy Ian, who listens to this podcast, and Brady out to dry. I'll take Michigan. Michigan, Texas National Championship.
That's probably the most boring scenario. I want to see Bama, Texas.
Yeah, I don't. There's no part of me that wants to see Bama in the national championship.
Michigan has turned. They've made the ultimate heel turn as we cheated, and then they've used that as an excuse to say we're the villain, which is not two things that are compatible. And honestly, hot take, if you're going to punish Florida State because their quarterback's hurt, why don't you look at Michigan because they cheated? I'm going to move on from that. I don't want to spark debate. I've seen a lot of people talking about Georgia and how this Mickey Mouse run that they've been on is they beat two elite teams in this almost, three perfect regular seasons. They've beat two elite teams over this 3-year span. That was Alabama in, I think, 21. And they beat Ohio State in 22. In both of those games, they are losing until the other team's best player gets hurt. The first year was Jameson Williams and Mechie was hurt, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt in 22. So who did Georgia beat during that span that was even good? 2022 Tennessee? Is that the best team they beat?
Vandy, and they beat Kentucky and Missouri.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of impressed.
So
Mickey Mouse run by Georgia. You heard it here first. The Mickey Mouse run by Georgia.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse run. Well, now what's crazy is the comeback next year is Kirby's going to have those big dumb idiots thinking everybody still doubts them after losing 1 out of 30 games.
And another thing is too about Georgia about Georgia just in their Mickey Mouse run that I would like to say so no one thinks I'm that dumb. When you're a national championship team, especially back-to-back, it takes getting lucky. It takes other teams, your opponents being down and having a chance to kind of get up, get dudes breathers, let them sit out a half, rest up, things like that. So, it's not all about a Mickey Mouse run. It does take, or I guess not the only reason. I guess everybody's championship runs have some sort of Mickey Mouse tone to them. But just wanted to get that out there too. Looking at what's going to be all over my mind for the next set of months, transfer portal. Or I guess not set of months, really just set a few weeks because the portal closes in January. You got to have a really quick turnaround here. So for it, transfer portal, it is crazier than ever. We kind of talked about it a little bit opening. There's 1,200 dudes in the portal right now. It's day 2. How we feeling about the portal? How do you feel about the transfer portal era?
I like it, especially for if you're in the SEC, you've got a reasonable amount of money you can spend. It is strange when you see players that just clearly aren't that good that think the reason they're not playing is because they're being slotted by a coach or they haven't been given the opportunities they should, when in reality they're just not good. So, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else and be not good there. Tennessee's had, it says here, 5 guys enter the portal, 6, and none of them really bother me or surprise me. Maybe Addison Nichols, an offensive lineman, that is kind of surprising, but I like the portal. I think it levels the playing field a little bit.
Britt, repeat that. I'm sorry.
I like the portal. I think it levels the playing field a little bit.
I think so too. We will see kind of how it all ends up playing out. I'm sorry, I was trying to read a text I just got. It was about the Doors though, so it was pertaining this podcast, or I wouldn't have looked at it. The transfer portal for me isn't the best thing in the world right now, and it's not the worst thing in the world either. The transfer portal, first of all, Vanderbilt's lost 15 dudes to the portal. So a lot of those guys we haven't really talked about because they hadn't left, or they hadn't left from the last time they were recorded. But just this time around, DeRicky Wright has now left. Savion Riley, who was expected to be a starting safety this year or this next year, left. Patrick Cheek Smith, I don't remember if he had left yet. He left. The really only good news you had is CJ Taylor said he was returning. I mean, it's hard to be mad about CJ. When CJ Taylor says he's returning, that's the best possible outcome. That's a guy who was getting calls in week 7. People asking him if he's going to leave. And he didn't. He stayed home. He stayed home and said, we're building something special in West End. No matter what fan you are, respect this guy. Respect CJ Taylor. Dude is at Vandy. We just went freaking 2-10. Our team sucked. And he's really good. Kirby Smart called him the best player on the field when we played Georgia. Best player on the field. Not just on Vandy, on the field. And he stayed at Vanderbilt one more year when he didn't have to, and he honestly could have got just as much money somewhere else. I mean, we took care of him, don't get me wrong. But he could have got just as much money somewhere else. And shout out CJ Taylor. I mean, this is just a CJ Taylor love fest for me right now. CJ, thank you for staying home. Vanderbilt is about to be active in the portal. It's about to be a lot of fun for me. We were at the lowest point in my Vanderbilt fanhood 2 days ago, and within a span of 48 hours, they flipped me to believe that we can actually do something next year. That's what this program does. Right when you lose all hope and you're broken down to the bottom core of who you are as a human, this team resurrects you from rock bottom, takes you all the way to believe that you have a chance to get to the top of the mountain. They just let you see it. They just let you see a path to the top of the mountain. And then they kick you back off. So right now, I'm walking back out of rock bottom, and I'm trying to get up. And we're going to see. If you hear me come on this podcast and say, I'd like to file a claim, we're back, something huge has happened. A few things could happen to make me say that, but something huge in the portal happens. And I'm cooking it right now. Don't y'all worry. Just know I'm on it. I'm cooking. Where's the line going to give an NIL deal to Vanderbilt players? I will say that.
That will be coming from you, not me.
It's
not the worst thing in the world I mean, you went 2-10. It's not the worst thing in the world to have some turnover. No,
for sure. You got it. You definitely have to. You have to get the dead weight out of there. The guys who don't believe, the dudes who are done with Clark, don't believe in Clark. You got to get them out of there because it's just not good for the program. It's good for them to leave. So guys who had not bought in anymore, that didn't have any faith in Clark, like Will, like Jaden. I'm not saying they're wrong. I totally get why they don't. But you got to get them out of here. And they want to leave, and Clark probably doesn't want them there, so it works both ways. Good for them. Hope they do well. Really think a lot of both those dudes. So hope those as individuals really, really do well. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the portal. It does, but you definitely need to get dudes out. I like what Britt said about that. You need to get dudes out of the portal or out off the team into the portal. It's when you lose young guys like London Humphreys. That's one I didn't touch on a little bit earlier. It sucks, but man, Georgia overpaid. They overpaid big. Vanderbilt offered London Humphreys, a hometown guy from CPA, a good amount of money. I don't care to throw out what Georgia offered. Georgia's after like all of the bonuses he can get or like add-ons. I don't even know what it's for, but I just seen it on the Georgia boards. It's close to $1 million. Dude had like 4 touchdowns last year. He's not worth $1 million. I wanted him to stay in Nashville as much as the next guy. You cannot pay him that much money. You cannot pay him that much money. No. You can pay Riley Leonard. You can pay Cam Ward $1 million to come be the face of your program at quarterback. Sure. You cannot pay a wide receiver $1 million. You cannot.
No.
Cannot do it.
No. For Tennessee, we can come back to Vanderbilt if we need to.
We will.
Last offseason, you saw the number of, I mean, we went through it on this podcast, the number of redshirt juniors and seniors and guys that are eligible to leave, and we're starting, and that is worrying because, I mean, it looked like we were going to have a lot of turnover this year. But when you really start to look at it and the way that some things shook out this year, there's a ton of guys that are trending to be coming back. Cooper Mays, Devontae Spraggins, John Campbell already said he's coming back. It looks like Amari Thomas is coming back. Bryson Eason, Tyler Barron is looking at coming back. I've been told that Tyler Barron is either coming back to Tennessee or he's transferring. He's not going to the draft. So there's a lot of pieces that thought were going to be big hitters in the portal for Tennessee that needed to be priorities that might not be. I think you still need to go get some offensive linemen. You still have
There we go.
You still have one tight end that's worth a crap on the roster. Looking forward to next year. Dylan Sampson's probably going to be your main running back. It wouldn't hurt to add a guy there. But there's a lot of pieces in place that are trending up for next year. Jordan Seaton's a 5-star coming out of high school, offensive lineman. He's committing Thursday, so 2 days from the time we're recording this. Boo Carter won Mr. Football today. But then you've got, I was getting off topic, if you look at the transfer portal, I mean, you've got the tight end from UConn, Joe Lee, is visiting this weekend. Juice Wells is visiting this weekend, the wide receiver from South Carolina. So there are some things to look at in the next few weeks. How long is the portal open? Is it like 20 days or 30 days?
I think it's a little over a month. I'll get you that exact date. Obviously, it opened on Monday. Let's see. Let me get that pulled up here.
Didn't mean to catch you off guard there.
No, you are good. Yeah, so it opened on December 4th, and it is closing on January 2nd. So a little less than a month.
Okay.
Not a little over. So, yeah, like I said, the next month's going to be crazy, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of portal talk, and you're going to get to see kind of what happens and what goes on. One thing I will say about the portal date that I think is really odd and does need to be fixed is guys who are on an SEC playoff teams, nobody wants to come out and say they're transferring when your team's about to go to the playoff, but also you have to do what's best for yourself. And sometimes that means leaving the program that you're in and just doing it, like having to make the decision of like, oh, do I want to do it after or do I only have like 3 days to decide, or do I want to do it before and cause a distraction to my team? And then what if we win and have to wait till after the national championship? Like it's a lot of thoughts I think you would have to think through.
Yeah, and then also National Signing Day is in January too.
Yeah, I thought National Signing Day was in December. I'm pretty sure it's December 20th.
Oh, is it? Dang.
I'm pretty sure it's December 20th. But yeah, I mean, the Rose Bowl, which is what Michigan and Alabama are playing in, that's on January 1st at 4 p.m. You just heard me when the portal closes. The next day. So, I mean, that's terrible. I think the time that it's open, it either needs to be like 2 weeks from like right now, a month later, or I know they're trying to do it before school starts because they're all in case you didn't know this, as like a fan, most guys who come in from the transfer portal, they come in the spring. They don't come in the fall. Like, most of your high school dudes come in the fall. They don't come in the spring. You have a few. No, it's opposite for transfer portal guys. They're trying to get in the spring and bust their tail, work out, because they know it's their last shot. It's either their last year or their last 2 years. They're down to their last shot, so they're trying to get in their work. Most of those guys come in the spring. So you're trying to get them in before the spring semester starts.
Sorry, I'm brain dead.
No, for why the portal makes sense is why I was explaining that, because Britt looked dead. But with all of that being said, I would like to give a quick shout out to somebody else. Shout out old-time Vanderbilt head coach Derek Mason. He got a job today, baby. He's going to be a Blue Raider. Derek Mason is your new head coach of MTSU. Shout out to all the people I know that go to MTSU.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Mason.
Shout out Derek. He did one thing well. He beat Tennessee when I needed him to. Thank you,
That is
Derek Mason.
true.
Thank
That
you,
is
Derek
true.
Mason. I appreciate that.
I mean, we're going on the longest time I've gone in a while without any football, and it's really weird. And every year I tell myself I'm not going to get this much into it next year. Like I put way too much stock, too much money, too much thought into this sport that I never even played, and these college age kids. But I've had to like reintroduce myself to my dog and my family and my fiance and say I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah, that's crazy. I could never do that. I have to think about Vanderbilt football 24/7. It's so unhealthy, but it's so awesome. It is so awesome. I don't have to worry about a fiance. I obviously have family. I do have to worry about them. I got my dog Rocky as well, my big homie. So got 2 out of the 3, I guess we're hitting. But I'm not worried about that stuff in the fall. I told somebody earlier, I was like, my life totally changes starting in about the last week of August. I go into full, it's all about football mode for the next 4 months, no matter what. And that's what happens.
Yeah, I had a pretty negative experience the last home game I was in Neyland Stadium. First of all, I get there and we sit towards the end of the row, and there's people in my seat, which I recognize them. They're the people that I sit beside, but they're in my seat, and the guy's just looking at me and like shaking his head. He's like, dude, I don't know what we're gonna do, but this guy, there's like this 400-pound guy, and he's taking up like 3 seats. And he was like, I really don't know what to do. I can't say something to him. I don't want to go I don't want to call an usher over here, but like we can't sit in our seat because this guy is so massive. So it ended up working out, which it was fine. But we're sitting there at the game, and there is this white powder just raining down on us. And it's on everybody. And it's dandruff. And so nobody sits behind me. I'm behind a rail. So it was so bad. I was like, the government's like dropping fentanyl on us. Or it's like a chemtrail. There was dandruff everywhere. To the point that I was bent over scratching my head to see if I had dandruff. And I don't, because I use Head and Shoulders. So I don't have dandruff.
Shout out to RuPaul Malu.
So my last experience of Neyland Stadium for a year or for 8 months is I have dandruff all over me and I'm sitting beside.
So where was the dandruff coming from?
I don't know.
Oh, we still
I don't know if it was coming from the upper deck. I don't know. There's nobody behind me.
Yeah, I know where you sit.
And it was all over everybody.
You know something crazy is that when I actually went to Neyland against Georgia, I didn't actually sit in my seat number either because there was some people on our road that I just don't know how to read or didn't know how to read or what, but they were just sitting in my seats. They were like, we have these seats. I was like, literally, no, you don't. But because there's enough room right here, I'm going to squeeze in with my friend, but that's not your seat right there. And they just sat there the whole game.
Yeah, in this scenario, I think that this man was in his correct seat. But he was just so large that he took up several others, which, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. I was just saying, and like, to the people, if anyone on this podcast knows the people that sit in Neyland Stadium X5, row 16, seats 1 through 4, tell them that I hope they don't have a Merry Christmas. Because
dang, it's like that.
These people suck. Because there was another scenario just like this one when I had to sit 2 seats over, and this guy comes walking up, and he looks like he's like 35. He looks like Spider-Man. He looks like Peter Parker, but the skinny Peter Parker. And he walks up and he's like, buddy, I've sat here. My family's had these seats for 40 years. And I start seeing red. And shout out Donald Davis was with me. So
shout out Donnie.
He was also seeing red. And I look back at Lefty, the usher, and I'm like, I'm about to kill this guy. I'm about to kill him.
It's angry.
So yeah, I don't know how I got off on that.
Yeah, Britt, I think just wanted to get some rage out of his body, maybe. I don't really know.
I've had a day of rage, honestly.
Just a day of being angry. It's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's a rainy Tuesday for you.
Mm-hmm. But
that is.
Football.
But football, we are sadly closing out. But listen, it's going to get fun. I'll promise I'll come on this podcast, get fired up a few times. There's some big names in the portal. Hopefully you'll see some action from the Doors, probably from the Vols as well. Seeing where they can get better because they did lose. They had a bunch of old guys on the team this year that ran out of eligibility, so that they'll have to replace. So we'll see. It's about to get fun. Basketball is definitely heating up. We'll have more basketball talk as SEC play starts. I don't really have anything positive to say about the Doors right now in basketball. Outside of women's basketball, we're back in women's basketball. But outside of that, not really.
My heart is clear.
Full heart, clear eyes, can't lose. Anchor down.
Amen.
Anchor down. It's always anchored down, no matter what this team does to me. When we win, it's so much sweeter than anything else in life, in human history. It's so sweet when the Doors win. Anchor down. Doors are going to be back.
Go Vols. Beat Iowa. We'll talk. I'm sorry. We'll talk about the bowl game next week. Go Vols. Goodbye. Completely forgot about the bowl game.